What if I told you everything you believe about love, proposals, rings, flowers, wasn't romance at all, but a system designed to keep men broke and obedient? Think about it. A man spends months of savings on a diamond, plans the perfect dinner, kneels in front of a crowd, and begs for approval. Society claps. Instagram celebrates. Hollywood calls it true love. But here's the twist. None of this is about love. It's about control. Romance was never created to make women happy. It was engineered to solve one problem: insecure men competing for access. They couldn't naturally win. And over centuries, this performance turned into culture, and culture turned into industry. Now it's normal for men to bleed their wallets just to prove they're worthy. Here's the painful truth. Men don't realize they're not expressing love. They're buying access. They're auditioning in a marketplace where every gesture sets a higher price tag. Miss one anniversary, forget one dinner, skip one trip, and suddenly, your value drops. Not love, not devotion, just performance. And the cruel irony? Women don't even fall for the man who buys the most roses. They fall for the man who makes them feel secure, which means the entire system is a trap. Men pay endlessly. Women pretend romance matters more than it does. And industries cash out while both sides lose. Stay until the end, because once you see the machinery behind modern romance, you'll never play the game the same way again. To understand how modern romance became a trap, we need to go back, way back, to the original structure of human attraction. For most of history, men didn't win women with flowers, dinners, or love poems. They won them with power. Kings, warriors, landowners, and wealthy merchants didn't need to impress women with gestures. Their resources spoke louder than any poem ever could. In a world where famine, disease, and tribal warfare were constant threats, survival was the ultimate currency. A man who controlled land, armies, or trade routes didn't need to write sonnets. He offered protection, security, and status, things no rational woman could afford to ignore. Attraction wasn't about who made her feel special. It was about who could keep her alive and give her children a future. Think of King Solomon, one of the most legendary figures in history. He had 700 wives and 300 concubines, 1,000 women. Was that romance? No, that was resource distribution. Solomon could provide palaces, servants, luxury, and prestige. He didn't have to convince women to choose him. His power made him the choice. Now imagine being one of the ordinary men in Solomon's kingdom. A farmer with a small plot. A craftsman with a modest shop. What could you possibly offer that could compete with being a queen? The reality is simple. You couldn't. And this wasn't just Israel. Across civilizations, from China to Europe to the Middle East, the most desirable women gravitated toward the most powerful men. The sexual marketplace ran on pure economics, and most men were completely priced out of it. But something interesting happened in medieval Europe. In the courts of southern France, a new idea began to emerge. If you couldn't compete with palaces and armies, maybe you could compete in another way. If you couldn't give her status, maybe you could give her poetry. If you couldn't provide wealth, you could at least provide attention. This is where the concept of romance was born. Troubadours and knights invented a new game. Instead of power, they would offer feelings. Instead of being rulers, they would play the part of devoted lovers. But here's the twist. This wasn't created for women. It was created for men. Romance gave powerless men a way to compete. It reframed the story. Suddenly, The poor knight with nothing to his name became the hero, the man of true love. Meanwhile, the wealthy, powerful man was painted as the villain who didn't understand passion. It was brilliant marketing, a clever way for men without resources to flip the script. And it worked. Romance became a cultural story that spread across Europe. Songs, poems, and tales glorified the man who loved deeply rather than the man who ruled strongly. For the first time, average men had a narrative that let them feel like contenders in the game of attraction. But make no mistake, this wasn't about equality or authenticity. It was a consolation prize dressed up as virtue. Romance was never designed to empower women or liberate men. It was designed to give losing men a way to compete in a market they couldn't otherwise win. And that's the DNA of modern romance, the script that still controls us today. Because even now, hundreds of years later, men are still told the same story. You don't need power, status, or wealth. You just need to prove your devotion. You just need to perform enough, sacrifice enough, and she'll see your worth. But does it really work that way? Or is it just another illusion that keeps men chasing while the real drivers of attraction remain the same? That's what we'll dig into next. Fast forward to today. The medieval poetry may have faded, but the underlying script remains the same. Men prove, women choose. Only now, the theater of romance has become bigger, more polished, and far more expensive. Modern dating runs on a brutal economic principle that most people never stop to question. Men pay, women receive. But the currency isn't always money. Sometimes it's time, sometimes it's energy, often it's emotional labor. Whatever the form, the exchange usually looks the same. Men invest, women evaluate. Think about the early stages of a relationship. He asks her out. He picks the place. He pays for dinner. He remembers her favorite drink, her favorite flowers, her favorite song. He organizes trips, surprises, and celebrations. He invests hours planning and dollars spending, all to show that he's serious. And what does she do? She receives. She observes. She decides whether his level of investment is enough. Her role is to evaluate, select, accept, or reject. His role is to perform. Her value is measured in selectivity. His value is measured in output. This is why so many men describe dating as exhausting. They aren't just getting to know someone, they're auditioning. And like any audition, the performance never really ends. Even after becoming her boyfriend or husband, the man is still expected to keep proving himself with consistent displays of devotion. Forget one birthday, skip one dinner, or hesitate to spend on an anniversary, and the relationship suddenly feels unstable. Meanwhile, women are told to filter men based on their willingness to invest without hesitation. A man who questions the price of an engagement ring or suggests a simple date instead of something extravagant is often labeled cheap, unromantic, or not serious. This dynamic creates a marketplace where men compete to see who can invest the most for the same basic reward: access to companionship, affection, and intimacy. In other words, things that used to come naturally are now locked behind escalating demonstrations of effort. It gets worse. Each act of devotion sets a new standard. One guy flies his girlfriend to Paris for her birthday, and suddenly every man in their social circle feels pressure to match or surpass that. Engagement rings become status symbols, not personal choices. Vacations, anniversaries, even ordinary date nights turn into public performances graded by friends, family, and social media. And the cruelest part? Neither men nor women are truly satisfied by this system. Men feel drained because they know their worth is being measured by what they give rather than who they are. Women feel frustrated because deep down, what they want most isn't another grand gesture. It's genuine connection. Yet culture trains both sides to keep playing their roles. He chases, she chooses. He proves, she approves. This is not love. This is a transaction dressed up as romance. And the longer you play, the more expensive it gets. What started as a love poem has turned into an industry worth billions. An industry that feeds on male insecurity and cultural expectation. But where did this escalation come from? How did basic human connection turn into a competition of who can spend, plan, and perform the most? That's where the trap reveals itself. And in the next part, we'll dig into the psychology that keeps men trapped in this endless audition. Here's where things get dangerous. Romance today doesn't just cost men time and money. It sets them up in a never-ending cycle of escalation. Each performance becomes the new baseline. Each sacrifice becomes the new expectation. And the second you stop climbing, you start sliding. Think about it. One man books a surprise weekend getaway, and suddenly his friends' girlfriends are asking, "Why don't we do something like that?" One man posts a picture of an oversized engagement ring, and every other man feels pressure to match or exceed that standard. One couple shows off their luxury vacation on Instagram, and the ripple effect spreads through entire social circles. What started as a personal gesture between two people now becomes a public scoreboard. Your relationship isn't just yours anymore. It's up for comparison, critique, and competition. And that's the escalation trap. Once the bar has been raised, pulling back feels like failure. But here's the truth. Women don't necessarily want more expensive gestures. Most don't dream of bankrupting the man they care about. What they do want is to feel valued and connected. Unfortunately, the culture we live in has convinced everyone that value equals extravagance. If a gesture isn't costly or Instagram-worthy, it's dismissed as lazy or unromantic. This is where the concept of artificial scarcity comes in. Affection, intimacy, and companionship, things that should be natural, abundant, and freely exchanged, have been turned into premium products. They've been placed behind a paywall, guarded by the unspoken rule: the more you sacrifice, the more you deserve. In this system, women are positioned as gatekeepers and men as applicants. Men line up to audition, to prove, to outperform. Women watch, filter, and decide who is invested enough. He demonstrates value through effort. She demonstrates value through selectivity. He chases, she chooses. And here's the insidious part. If a man opts out of this game, he isn't seen as authentic. He's seen as deficient. The man who refuses to shower her with gifts is lazy. The man who suggests practical dates instead of lavish ones is cheap. The man who pulls back on constant gestures is complacent. On the other side, women who lean in too eagerly risk being judged too. If she accepts too quickly, she's desperate. If she makes it too easy, she's cheap. Both men and women are trapped by roles that don't reflect what they actually want, but reflect what the culture demands they perform. The result? A relationship model that doesn't measure compatibility, affection, or mutual value. It measures how well you play the part. Men feel anxious, always asking, "Am I doing enough?" Women feel uncertain, asking, "Does he really love me? Or is he just playing the game?" And this performance-based model doesn't just exhaust individuals, it distorts relationships. Instead of intimacy, couples end up in a constant dance of testing, proving, and evaluating. What should be a bond becomes a competition. What should be connection becomes conditional access. That's the escalation trap. And it's not just social, it's financial, it's psychological, and it's spreading faster than ever through the megaphone of social media. But the trap wouldn't be complete without something deeper: biology. Because beneath all the culture, beneath all the marketing, attraction still runs on ancient rules we can't escape. And unless we face that truth, no amount of poetry, diamonds, or getaways will ever be enough. Underneath all the stories we've been told, underneath the marketing campaigns and the Hollywood scripts, attraction still runs on biology. And biology doesn't negotiate with culture. For thousands of years, women have been drawn to signs of competence, resources, and security. Men have been drawn to signs of youth, fertility, and beauty. These aren't social constructs. They're deeply wired survival instincts. And yet, modern romance tries to cover this reality with a glittery mask. Men are told that if they just perform enough, if they write enough poems, buy enough flowers, or plan enough surprises, they can substitute emotion for substance. Women are told that if they prioritize feelings over security, they're more authentic. Both sides are encouraged to act against what biology actually values. But here's the conflict. A woman might enjoy a man's romantic gestures. She might smile at his poems, appreciate his attention, and even develop affection for him. But if he can't provide stability, her attraction fades. Not because she's shallow, but because her subconscious mind is tuned for survival. The same instincts that kept her ancestors alive still shape her decisions today. On the flip side, a man may go through the motions of grand gestures. He may plan, pay, and perform because he's been told that's the way to a woman's heart. But deep down, he feels the exchange is transactional. He resents the pressure. He questions whether the affection he receives is genuine or just a reward for good performance. This disconnect creates relationships built on roles, not reality. He plays the provider of romance. She plays the gatekeeper of affection. Both wonder why the magic doesn't feel real. And the truth is, it can't, because the roles are artificial. They were written centuries ago to solve a problem that doesn't exist anymore, yet both men and women are still forced to perform them. Think about what this does long term. Men learn that their value is conditional. If they stop performing, they risk losing everything. Women learn that their value lies in being desired, not in desiring. She becomes the prize to be won, not a partner building something together. And when we peel back the curtain, we see the power dynamic hidden in plain sight. When a man kneels to propose, he isn't just asking a question. He's literally putting himself in a position of submission. When he buys a diamond, he isn't just showing affection. He's sacrificing months of work for her approval. These rituals don't symbolize equality. They institutionalize inequality. At first, it feels flattering. She feels chosen. He feels noble. But over time, the imbalance erodes connection. He becomes anxious, always afraid of slipping. She becomes uncertain, always questioning if she's loved for herself or for the role she plays in his performance. Romance tells us that is the path to love. But biology keeps whispering another truth. The man who can provide stability, competence, and strength will almost always outweigh the man who simply performs feelings. The woman who brings health, vitality, and genuine care will always shine brighter than the one who only inspires devotion. This isn't cynicism, it's reality. And until we accept it, we'll keep building relationships on illusions, then wondering why they collapse under the weight of unmet expectations. But culture doesn't stop at biology. It goes further. It doesn't just distort attraction, it monetizes it. And that's where the industry of romance comes in. By now, you can see the cultural script. Men perform, women evaluate. But here's the part most people miss. This script isn't just social conditioning, it's a business model. Entire industries profit from keeping men trapped in endless performance. Look at the numbers. The average engagement ring, marketed as 2 months' salary. Who created that rule? Not women, not tradition. A jewelry company did. De Beers launched that slogan decades ago to boost diamond sales, and men have been bleeding paychecks ever since. Weddings? The average cost in America is over $30,000, more than many people make in a year. And that's before the honeymoon, the anniversary trips, the expensive dinners, the Valentine's rituals. Restaurants, travel agencies, florists, jewelers, they've all learned the same trick. Sell love as a product. Package intimacy as an experience. Convince men that devotion only counts if it comes with a receipt. And men, desperate to prove their worth, line up to buy. But the price isn't just financial, it's psychological. Because once a man gets locked into this performance cycle, it never stops. The boyfriend has to prove he deserves to remain the boyfriend. The husband has to prove he's still worthy of being the husband. Every anniversary, every holiday, every milestone becomes another test. And here's the kicker. The performance trap doesn't create connection. It destroys it. When every gesture is calculated for impact, spontaneity disappears. When every gift comes with an expectation of gratitude, real appreciation fades. The man isn't buying flowers because he feels joy. He's buying them because not buying them feels dangerous. The woman isn't accepting gifts because she wants them. She's accepting them because rejecting them feels rude or ungrateful. What results is a relationship that looks healthy from the outside, full of photos, milestones, and expensive memories, but feels hollow on the inside. Both partners start to resent the roles they've been forced into. He feels like a performer on trial. She feels like a prize instead of a partner. Neither feels secure, neither feels truly seen. And yet, the cycle keeps spinning. Why? Because stepping back looks like failure. If he says, "Das ist, let's scale down the spending," it looks like he's stopped caring. If she says, "I don't need the grand gestures," no one believes her, because culture insists all women want to be spoiled. This is why so many couples silently suffer. They hit the milestones, buy the gifts, and take the trips, but privately wonder, why doesn't this feel real? It's because the relationship has become theater, a stage play for friends, family, and social media. Love reduced to performance art. The trap is powerful. It keeps men working longer hours, taking second jobs, even going into debt, all to maintain appearances. It keeps women in relationships where they are admired as prizes, but rarely valued as partners. And it keeps industries thriving, feeding on insecurity, expectation, and fear. So here's the question. If the performance trap doesn't create real connection, what does? And is there a way to step outside the system without losing love altogether? That's what we'll explore in the final section. So here we are. We've pulled apart the history, the psychology, and the industry behind modern romance. We've seen how men are pushed into endless auditions, how women are trained to filter through performances, and how corporations profit from the insecurity on both sides. The obvious question now is, how do we break free? The first step is to recognize the trap for what it is. Optional. You don't have to buy into the theater. You don't have to kneel on command. You don't have to measure your love with receipts. The system only works when you agree to play your part. And once you see it clearly, you can choose to step out. For men, this means rethinking value. Your worth is not measured by how many flowers you buy or how many trips you fund. It's measured by who you are when the performance stops. Are you competent? Are you reliable? Are you someone who can create stability, vision, and partnership? Those are the traits women actually build lives around. Not grand gestures, not Instagram moments, but character and capability. For women, it means questioning the script you've been handed. Do you really want the man who bleeds himself dry, proving his devotion? Or do you want the man who builds something solid with you, financially, emotionally, and practically? Are you seeking attention, or are you seeking security and connection? Culture tells you to want one thing, but your biology and your long-term happiness might demand another. The truth is, genuine attraction doesn't need props. It doesn't need elaborate choreography. It doesn't need expensive rituals. Real attraction emerges when two people bring authentic value to the table and recognize it in each other. That's when relationships stop feeling like contracts and start feeling like connections. Think about the difference. In the trap, every date, every gift, every gesture is an audition. Miss one, and the relationship feels shaky. Outside the trap, affection flows naturally. Gestures aren't obligations, they're expressions. Instead of, I have to do this or I'll lose her, it becomes, I want to do this because I value her. That shift makes all the difference. And here's the paradox. The men who step off the hamster wheel are often the ones women respect the most. The man who refuses to perform endlessly, but invests in himself, his health, his competence, his purpose, becomes the man who naturally attracts. He's not desperate. He's not begging. He's grounded. And women can feel the difference. This is the real truth about attraction. It cannot be bought. It cannot be faked. And it cannot be sustained through performance. Attraction has to be inspired by authenticity, competence, and compatibility. Anything else is just theater. So here's my challenge to you. Stop performing. Stop chasing approval through expensive gestures. Start building value in yourself and demanding authenticity in return. That's the foundation for real relationships. Not the Hollywood version, not the Instagram version, but the kind that actually lasts. Because when you strip away the lies, the marketing, and the myths, one reality remains clear. Genuine attraction doesn't need performance. It just needs two people willing to be real. And if you're ready to stop playing someone else's game and start winning in your own, stick with this channel. Hit subscribe right now, because we're going deeper into these truths. The sooner you understand them, the sooner you can escape the trap, and finally build the kind of connection most men never get to experience. At the end of the day, romance as we know it isn't love. It's theater. It's a script written centuries ago, polished by industries, and sold to men as the only path to worthiness. You're told to perform, to pay, to prove. Yet the harder you try, the less secure you feel. And the irony is cruel. The more you chase approval, the further you drift from the connection you actually want. But here's the truth worth holding on to. Attraction can't be purchased. It can't be negotiated through diamonds, dinners, or getaways. It has to be inspired by authenticity, competence, and mutual value. The men who step off the hamster wheel and invest in who they truly are, not in endless performances, become the men who naturally attract. The women who step outside the narrative stop waiting to be chosen and start building real partnerships. So the choice is yours. You can keep playing the role, or you can walk off the stage and finally live the reality. If this message hit you, don't let it fade. Stay with me, because this is only the beginning. Thank you for watching. If this message hit you, don't just scroll away. Subscribe, dive deeper into our content, and start building the mindset that puts you back in control. Drop a comment below. What's the biggest struggle you want us to break down next? Let's build a brotherhood of men who rise above confusion and reclaim their power. See you in the next video. Subscribe now, and let's break the script together, so you never mistake performance for love again.